Okay, so the normal programming procedure for a speed controller that lets you use the program card is without plugging the speed controller in. See here. What you can do is plug the speed controller right into the top. Just follow the colors. And this speed controller contains a BEC, so I don't have to hook up anything to the separate one. If this did not, I would have to hook up a separate battery power source right here. But now what I'm going to do is go ahead and plug it into the battery, and then you'll see everything light up on the card here. So normally you would be able to go through and select up and down, to select different choices, and then this would go left and right. And then normally when you'd find something you'd want, if you wanted to change the setting, you hit the OK button. Now this speed controller doesn't quite work with the program card though, even though it says it should. So I can't really use this, but the default settings for me work, so that's why it's not that big of an issue. But then I would just go ahead and unplug the battery, unplug this, and plug this into this receiver, and then hook up my motor. Now when you hook up your motor, you can see here, anytime if you hook up all four of them and the motor's running in reverse, all you need to do is change any two. Just swap two of them, it doesn't matter which two, and that'll make the motor go the opposite direction. So the first time you go to use your speed controller, you may notice that the throttle, when you start increasing your throttle, that the motor doesn't start spinning as soon as you start increasing the throttle. Now it should. So if it's not, what you're going to need to do is set your throttle endpoints, and so turn your transmitter on and put your throttle at full stick. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and plug the helicopter in. Now it shouldn't do anything. It should not spin up. But I always keep my hand on top of the rotor head just in case if it did. So I'm going to show you. What you're going to do is go ahead and plug the helicopter in. Okay, so it beeped twice. Now I'm going to lower the throttle stick. Beeped a couple more times. Now it's good to go. So now when I start increasing my throttle stick, as soon as I start increasing it, the motor is going to start spinning up. Now that's how it should be. So that was just one other thing I wanted to mention, and in case you forgot what channel this goes in channel 3. Alright, so when I go to set up my gyro and tail servo, so this is just how I set it up, and again, it's probably different for a lot of other people, but turn my transmitter on, make sure my trim tab is in the middle, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug my tail servo directly into the spot where my gyro would plug in. See, the gyro's unplugged. So I'm going to plug this into channel 4. If I can get it in here. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and plug the helicopter in. And again, the main motor's unplugged. Okay, so the reason I did this is because this is how I want to make sure that my servo arm is at 90 degrees. Now this is where how I always go to set my servo arm to 90 degrees. I connect it directly to the receiver. That way I know it's not going to be influenced by the gyro. And then I want to make sure that the servo is moving in the right direction. So you go left rudder stick, the servo arm should go to the right, and vice versa. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is unplug the helicopter, unplug the servo, and I'm going to plug the gyro back into where it goes. Now the gyro wire goes into channel 4, and the remote wire goes into channel 5. Now for the Telebi gyros, for me, my personal preference is to leave the yellow wire unplugged. Now what this does is it keeps the gyro in head holding mode at all times. So, and that also means that when you have it hooked up like this, that to adjust the gain, you use the dial on the gyro itself and not the dial on the transmitter. So I'm going to go ahead and plug my servo back into my gyro. And I'm going to plug the helicopter back in. Now I just need to make sure that my gyro is moving in the right direction. So, gyro is initialized. Now, when I pull the tail towards me, I want the tail pitch slider to go backwards. Now, what it's doing is going forwards. Now, you may not be able to see that on the video, so I'm going to do is unplug it. And on the side here, there's a little switch on the other side. So you just flick that switch, go ahead and plug it back in. Always let it initialize, and this takes a couple seconds to initialize, just like the ESky gyro does. But when it does initialize, you'll see the servo move, and you'll also get a blue light on the back of it. Cool blue. So now, when I jerk the back tail towards me, my servo arm's going to go that way, just like I want. So now I know my servo and my gyro are operating in the right direction. Now, one other thing I forgot to mention, when your servo arm is perfectly at 90 degrees to the servo, that is when you also want to make sure that, let's get that right there. You also want to make sure that your tail pitch slider is in the middle. Now, if it's not in the middle, go ahead and loosen the screws for the mount and slide the whole servo itself forwards or backwards up on the boom until you get your tail pitch slider in the middle so that you have no pitch on your blades. I want to get it just about like that. So I'm going to go ahead and move my servo forward or backward until I get it just like that. And then after all this, I'm going to take it outside and go through and start spinning it up and checking the gain on the gyro and adjusting that accordingly. Okay, normally what I would do is I would take off, check to see if the tail of the helicopter was wagging. If it was wagging, I would land, unplug the helicopter, adjust the gain on the gyro, either up or down, and then plug the helicopter back in, take off, see if it was wagging, and just keep adjusting it, fine-tuning it until you get it to stay steady. Now I lucked out, and one of the reasons why I love the Telebee gyros is they always just seem to work. So I just tested mine, and it holds pretty good. I really like these aligned blades too. I really think they improve the stability of the helicopter. But those are my upgrades that I think you should